Ohio Arts Council's Rife Gallery, and on behalf of the OAC board and staff and the gallery team, welcome. I'd like to introduce you today to our guest artist, Mitchell Rose. Yeah, hey! Mitchell Rose. I think we're going to have fun today. For those of you who experienced the inaugural juried exhibition in the Rife Gallery in 2015, Mitchell Rose won the grand prize for Globetrot. It was a very special piece, as is all of your work, which you are about to experience. Prior to becoming a filmmaker, Mitchell Rose was a New York-based choreographer. Are you going to dance for us?
Unlikely.
Oh, unlikely. His company toured.
But you never know.
Well, right. Okay, good. His company toured internationally for 15 years. Eventually, he was drawn more to visual media and graduated from the American Film Institute as a directing fellow. His films have won 86 festival awards and are screened around the world. The New York Times called him a rare and wonderful talent, and I think we would all agree. The Washington Post wrote that his work was in the tradition of Chaplin, Keaton, and Jacques Tati.
Well done.
Funny and sad and more than the sum of both. I like that a lot. Mr. Rose is currently a professor of dance filmmaking at The Ohio State University. Welcome, Mitchell Rose.
I don't have anything to say now. That's pretty much.
That's it?
I have bio written down here, but that's it. There's nothing else to do. Well, okay, I will add, though, that when as you said, I went to the American Film Institute and in the directing program there, and was just in Hollywood for 10 years, doing the Hollywood thing of writing screenplays and taking meetings and trying to become a big director. But then I got a fellowship about 10 years later at UCLA to explore ways of filming dance and capture dance's vitality in a two-dimensional medium. And I didn't think that this is going to be a career path. I just thought, it'll be really fun to visit my other love, dance, and see about combining those two things. So I did this fellowship, and the way life works out, I became the dance film guy. I didn't go into it going this is what I want to do now, but it just kind of happened. John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. So I made a film in that fellowship, which I'll show you first, and then I began getting commissions from dance companies to make works with them, and then I got a job at Cal Arts teaching dance filmmaking there, and then I got a job at Ohio State teaching dance filmmaking there. So 2/3, 3/4 of the films that I do now are dance related, and you'll see some of that diversity happening here. So I'll just show you that first one that I made there, and I'll take questions at the end. But if anybody has any questions during in between the films, it's perfectly okay. I mean, I don't mind stopping if anything comes to mind, then that's fine. So this is called Dear John, and it then became the people who had funded the fellowship gave me more money to make more of them, and it became an internet series so that dance could go out to the people. This was kind of before YouTube and things like that, So this is the year 2000. So that became a suite of 4 films called Modern Daydreams, of which this is now episode 4. Modern Daydreams, it's the same guy, same character, same clothes, just in different situations. If there's time, I may show another one later on. So, remember, any questions anytime? That's fun, yes.
Do you develop the concept, the
Yeah.
storyline?
Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Right. So, yeah, I came up with, well, actually, a lot of the films I'm showing here are made in collaboration with Body Vox Dance Company, which is a Portland, Oregon-based dance company. So that was shot in Oregon. They're all friends from the dance world. And it's a husband and wife couple that have a company. And the woman had, for years, as soon as I went to film school, she said, you know, someday we should make a solo of an excavator, and to the Swan music. And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. And so now when it was time to do it, I thought, you know, but it would be a bigger story if it's not just a solo of what it can do. Oh, look, it can do this, it can do this, it can do this. It becomes a bigger story if there's a person in there doing a duet with it. Because now it becomes a story of longing. Not just like, oh, look, isn't it fun to make the thing move around? And now it becomes a universal story of longing, which everybody can relate to. Everybody has experienced longing. So even though the object of his affection here is an object, there's an archetype of emotion that everyone has felt. Everyone has felt that, oh, there's a thing and I can't have it. And so when I first had made the thing, I was thinking, oh, this will be amusing. And then when I finished editing it and watched it, it was like, oh my God, it's touching. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it's delightful that it does. So yes. Okay, moving right along. I'm actually going to jump forward a couple of years before this. Tangentially dance related. But this is an animation that I made called Elevator World, and it's about the spatial politics that goes on inside an elevator.
Oh.
Welcome to Elevator World. Welcome to a place of peace. In our hustle and bustle age, people seek retreat, arbitrary cruelty of modern life. So, random gatherings of people find solace in forming temporary fellowships in a place of serenity where they know quietude awaits. And they find this haven in the midst of their running to and fro, this way and that, on a simple plot, in a simple square. A quadrilateral extruded into a volume so that peace might surround them, hold them. A rectangular retreat which opens its gates, beckoning all to come. The downtrodden and the upwardly mobile, riding together in total equality, watching numbers. Yes, welcome to Elevator World, where we close the doors on the land of the mundane. Because in Elevator World, the aesthetic principle is the highest ideal. Where the outlanders live in discord, in Elevator World, spatial harmony is the selfless goal of all who dwell therein. Spatial harmony, aesthetic balance. When it comes time, as it always must, for one of their brethren to depart their world, the community they leave behind adjusts itself to find a new way, a new order. And when a new one is born in amongst them, they welcome him and again adapt their lives and find a new balance. Yes, it's true. It has been recorded. See the truth. These are the actual chronicles of actual Elevator World journeys. Bear witness to how all aspire to spatial harmony. Hi. How you doing?
And for the folks watching on the internet, to see these things clearer, go to mitchellrose.com.
I will never ride the elevator again with this.
Well, I'll tell you that. I'm glad you said that. This piece was originally a slideshow that I did back when I had my dance company. I used to do slideshows of entr'actes in between the dances because I like short form. I just like 3 and 4 minute pieces. Like, here's an idea, bang, it's done, move on, as opposed to overdeveloping ideas. So even like when I had a dance company and we would do the pieces there, they'd be like 3, 4, 5 minutes long. So that means there's 10, 12 pieces in an evening. And that rhythm of lights on, lights off, change costumes, lights on, lights off, change costumes, gets to be, can wear on an audience person. So I'd have slideshows of conceptual comedy going in between. Elevator World was originally one of those, just 2 slide projectors just kind of dissolving back and forth. And then when I became a filmmaker, I wanted to make an animated version of the thing. But people every so often, when I'll bump into them and they say, yeah, I saw your dance company in the 80s. Didn't you do a piece about elevators? Yeah. So I haven't been able to ride an elevator since without thinking about that. So that's the kind of impact that an artist is happy
And
to
it's
hear
so,
about.
it's so true.
Yeah.
Because I am in a building with elevators, I can ride on, but it's so true about when somebody comes in and when somebody
Sure.
leaves.
Well, we all have our space around us and that we feel comfortable in. And any closer than here, people begin to freak out a little bit. So when you're locked in a metal box, and people are transgressing your space, it's only natural to try to find what's the maximum. Interestingly, and as long as we're in the legislative building, the question of gerrymandering, there's actually an MIT physicist who has this bubble theory of if you put in a bunch of bubbles, soap bubbles, in why am I talking about this? In a bowl of water, the bubbles will all expand out to try to find the most space around them that they can, and that's what we should be doing with our voting districts. But anyway, it's kind of like what we do in an elevator.
Oh, I have a quick question. Did you do all the computer animation
Yeah.
yourself?
Well, for several years in Hollywood, I kept trying to find an animator and enroll them in the idea of this is a great project, so you should just spend 3 months doing it for nothing. And I couldn't find anybody to do that, so I just learned the software and just did it myself.
So you taught yourself, or did
Yeah.
you take? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Did you use motion capture at all in that, or all those avatars?
No, there was a program called Poser, which I just went out of business a couple of years ago, but it's a simple human animation thing, so it's all just there are stock figures and you can change them a little bit, and there are wireframe ones or skinned ones with body inherent things you can change them a little bit, and then you just keyframe them. You say, I want you to be here at this time, and I want you to be here, and then here, and then it took forever. Particularly for somebody who doesn't know what he's doing, just kind of figuring out as he goes along, I've always been an observer of human patterns. Noticing you're at a dinner party, and why are all the people who are in monotones on this color and all the people wearing colored things are on this side of the table? Because I always just noticed that kind of thing. So body language was something that really interested me then. I'm seeing the repeatable patterns that people do in body language. So I thought it would be interesting to make an encyclopedia or a dictionary of body language and just going this means this means this. But not enough to actually spend 5 years doing it. So when BodyVox said, let's commission you to make a new piece, I got that idea of it'd be cool to resurrect that idea and do it as a language instructional video. The same ones, if you get a video that teaches you German or French or something like that, to instruct body language. And so I got a whole bunch of body language videos out of the LA Public Library and looked at them and was amazed at how bad the production values are of these free ones that you get out of the library. I guess Rosetta Stone is probably fancy. So, but they all have terrible production values of there'll be a set for a conversation of at the post office, and it'll just be a box, and there's a person just standing behind the box, or there'll be and all that. actors in it are non-pro. So there's like people who are like really uncomfortable being on camera and things like that. So I wanted to like make a language instructional video with that kind of low production values. So this is called Learn to Speak Body, and it has over 3 million hits on the internet.
Welcome back. Let's review of Tape 4's vocabulary building. Watch and repeat. I am closed. I am open. There are so many thoughts in my head that it needs support. I am at rest, standing as if lying down. I am stimulating my thinking. Our usefulness is in suspension. Literally, we can't give you a hand. I am attuned to the passage of time. My genitals are unavailable. My boom boom is unavailable. Good. Now let's learn some new grammar. Can you tell what this woman is saying? The hand push states, a listener is directed away. The torso spiral says, I am preparing to go elsewhere. But together this sentence says, you are sent away from my place. Or in the colloquial contracted, get outta here. Get out of here. See, putting compound phrases together is easy. Let's go on. How about this phrase? In a turtle-like reaction of humiliation, the shoulders raise, withdrawing the head, the place of knowing. The mouth pulls to the side, indicating, I have nothing to say because my speaking orifice is distorted. This compound phrase says, I can't speak of anything from the place of knowing. Or in the contracted form, I don't know. Or merely, oh. What does this young lady mean? The sharp raising of the head, an expression of shock, is translated as, oh. The percussive planting of the weight into one hip says, I am made heavy and will remain in an unchanging position of personal certainty, an affirmation of me. The elevated focus says, I am attuned to a more celestial level than is present. These elements in concert then create the compound phrase, oh, me, God. Or the variant, oh my God. Oh my God. Now you're getting it. This phrase introduces the concept of abstract representations, unseen props. Here, the arms are launched upward, symbolizing the jettisoning of invisible representations of self, belief systems, expectations, etc. The percussive striking of the hands also utilizes unseen props, here punishing that which is outside. The lips begin to form the letter F in an example of non-verbal translinguistic communication. This compound phrase says, I am angry. I am angry. Good job. Conjugating the head. Head inflections modify meaning. Watch and repeat. I am sensitive. In the anterior tense, I am smart. In the posterior tense, I am suspicious. I am perplexed and am trying to see from a different perspective. I confront you and am literally in your face. What are you, nuts? You are free to imagine what it would be like to be horizontal with me. In the anterior tense, I am dangerously insane. The posterior tense is too tense. Now let's put some of what we've learned into conversational practice. Watch and complete your new vocabulary. I have no weapon. I scrutinize the totality of your physical form. I withdraw some parts of my physical form from consideration. I have power in my pelvis. My genitals are unavailable. I have no weapon. That's the idea. Let's try a harder one. I have no weapon. You are free to imagine what it would be like to be horizontal with me. Get out of here. I am relaxed, standing as if lying. I am dangerously insane. I grant access to my face. Oh my God! I withdraw access to my face. I have a weapon. I am angry. Good work. On tape 6, we'll take a look at the mouth and what it says when it's not saying anything. See you next time.
I want to introduce the next one because I'm talking too much. So this one is called Case Studies from the Grote Center for Sleep Disorders, and it's about dedicated to those people who, like myself, have discovered that the bed is not just a place for rest and romance, it's also a place for mental anguish.
I'm Dr. L. Peabody Grote, Jr., Director of Clinical Research at the Grote Center for Sleep Disorders. Our center is involved in the study of adult sleep disorder induced by childhood trauma, or ASDIT. We have found that many patients who complain of unrestfulness have repressed painful childhood episodes, which later seek expression in the unconsciousness of sleep. I'd like to show you several case studies.
Well, I'm always so tired, and I'm being incredibly forgetful. I sleep 7 or 8 hours, but
you don't feel rested.
it's like I'm always dragging, and I can never sleep.
This woman is a classic ASDIC sufferer. We placed her in our sleep chamber for observation. The patient is a journalist, single, highly intelligent, and generally well-adjusted. She drifted into stage 1 sleep normally. But when the patient entered REM sleep, she seemed to be in some distress. She then began to assume a series of unusual body shapes. Eventually, we were able to determine a pattern, realizing that in fact, the patient was spelling with her body. Through subsequent interviews, we were able to discern that the patient's mother was a former spelling bee champion who had relentlessly pressured her daughter to follow in her footsteps, dooming her to spell out nocturnal messages of regret. This is ASDIC, or adult sleep disorder induced by childhood trauma, and the cause of the patient's forgetfulness. This patient complained of painful soreness in the legs upon waking.
These aren't cramps. My legs are sore, and it's hard to walk in the morning.
Our interviews unearthed a disquieted past. The patient had learned early in life that being entertaining is an effective method of being noticed when you're in a family of 12 children. We decided to videotape the patient with night vision. A little after 2 a.m., somnambulistic, attention-seeking behavior could be observed. We then discovered the source of the patient's leg soreness. He continued to entertain for 38 minutes.
I'm the third from the youngest, and I'm here every night. Stay away from Mom's feel.
We dubbed this phenomenon habituated attention mechanism, or HAM. A third example. Mr. Milner, please. A third example involves a couple's bed boundary issues. This couple had a different type of problem.
I would just feel more relaxed if I could hold you when I sleep.
I know, but I need my own space. I don't want to feel all bound up.
They were utterly normal. I was confident we could cure them. We placed them under sleep observation. The woman fell asleep shortly after the man. At 1-minute intervals, no unusual activity was discernible, other than the fact that they seemed rather static sleepers. But as we accelerated the observational frame rate, an interesting psychomotor dynamic between the two became evident. They had not understood that their unconscious identities could self-liberate with greater ease than their conscious personas would ever allow. When shown evidence of their nightly tenderness, the patients were pleased. Mrs. Milner? Addict is clearly a significant psychological phenomenon, perhaps even as important as dubis, or disappointing offspring ballet affectation syndrome, discovered by Dr. L. Peabody Grote Sr. Thank you.
This is a totally trivial question, but did you commission those two paintings for the set, or did you?
No, they were just, the guy who has the dance company, this is his father's office, and those were just stuff that was there.
Couldn't be more perfect.
I know. You know, it's a perfect location for it. Yeah, I don't have that kind of budget to commission it's like, whatever's there will be fine. You know, I was going to do like a 5-minute PowerPoint talking about like what dance film is to me. But I'm thinking, you don't want to hear a lecture. I'll just keep showing work. Is that better? Yeah, it's funner. Okay, so never mind.
Can we go back to the video you displayed? It was so beautiful. The couple, it was very funny, but
Yeah.
the last one was so beautiful. Technically, how did you do that? The whole bedroll, and how does that work?
Yeah, well, that's a stop motion animation, meaning there's just like an image, and the still image, and then a still image, and a still image. So we worked out what the whole thing would be, and we had a chart saying, all right, so now we're going to do the pinwheel. It's going to take 22 pictures to go around. So when then to accomplish it, so they'll be in the shape, and there's a video camera mounted overhead, and I'd say like roll camera, and they just hold it, and someone would walk in with a slate that says like, this is frame 381, and then they step out, cut, because I just need one frame.
Okay.
Then I go through, and then we say, all right, so now move a little bit, and they would, they would just move a few inches, and then say, okay, roll camera, 382, and they step out.
Wow. How did you do that when they were going across the bed and underneath?
He's lying there, and then he's off the bed, and then he went under the bed.
It was just so beautifully
Yeah.
done. Oh my God.
Yes, it's magical, but it's, yeah. So I mean, he would go under the bed, and then and when he was under the bed, then we would stop the production, and actually would continue to lie there so that he could get up and go to the bathroom, and then go back under the bed. Because you can't move in the middle of a stop motion animation. But if you're under the bed, that was the time when you could get water and go to the bathroom, and then we'd flip around, and then it was her chance to go out.
I'm curious, like the pacing of that is
Yeah.
so good. It sets up this rhythm and then there's surprise.
Yeah.
Did you do motion sketches to get the time, or did you
No,
actually
it's
do
just
that?
in our heads.
Okay.
We just kind of working it out. We could do this, and then we could do this.
Mhm.
So we had like a chart of like what the choreography is going to be. But then it's just like slide a little bit, and I did adjust some of the musicality of it in editing because. All right, so let's say that like they hold hands and they kind of reach out and come back in. So when each one of the images was up for five video frames, so a sixth of a second. So, but when you put it together, it would go like da 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 da, and just doesn't have that kind of lyrical musical quality. So I could change it in editing to 5 frames, 7 frames, 9 frames, 11 frames, 13 frames, 11, and so it would go and kind of create that musicality. And I thought that the eye would notice, but it doesn't notice the change of rhythm. It looks like it's just ongoing the whole time. I mean, the eye is kind of seeing change, and it didn't see the change of rhythm. So I was able to kind of massage the musicality of the thing a little bit.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
so was the music custom? Did you have musicians create that? Or?
Yeah, although they weren't performing to any music, but
Okay.
a very well-known choreographer named David Dorfman did play the accordion, and a cellist composer did the cello part. And in my piece that's here in the show, Exquisite Chords, it's the same cellist composer who made the score for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so I began going into a 4-film exploration of what I call hyper-match cutting, where where there are quick changes, but something replacing it, but in the same continuity and position in the frame. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So the film over there, Exquisite Chord, is the 4th in that exploration. And I'll show you the first one. This is called Advance, also made with Body Dogs. The first of the hyper match cutting series. Or maybe not.
challenge, well, it's mesmerizing and amazing. But what would you say, as someone who works at this, was the biggest challenge of that particular?
Well, it took a while because we had to go to so many locations. So that took a year. There were 5 different sessions. So I'd go up there. I'd go from LA to Portland, and we'd spend 3 or 4 days driving around saying, "How about there?" And I had this thing of like, "Oh, we don't have this part and this part and this part, and let's fill it in with there." So it just took a long time.
I have another question
Yeah.
about the shifting frame.
Yeah.
Could you explain like how you came up with the idea and how that worked?
Well, you can, in computer editing, do what's called stabilization. So like if you have a handheld shot, so like I'm moving the camera over here, and it's going to still be like, my footsteps are still going to make a bump. So you can stabilize it, so the computer looks and says like, all right, this is what I think is the subject in the middle. I'm going to move the frame around to keep the subject there, so it makes it nice and smooth, like a Steadicam kind of shot. So to do that, it has to shift the frame around. Normally what happens is it scales it up, it blows up the whole image so that black space on the side that's being revealed as the image shifts goes away. But I didn't. I liked that the artifact of the shifting frame. I thought it had just a cool grunge
like
quality to it.
It's this weird denial of what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
Sort of like hide the seams, show the seams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I just thought it was a cool look, so I just lumped it in there. All right, I'll show the third in the Hyper Match Cutting series. This is Globetrot, and this is the one that was played here in the first inaugural, whatever you call it, this show 2 years ago that won Best of Show. Oh, but let me say something about it first before I show it. In hyper match cutting, I think there's a phenomenon, an emotional phenomenon that happens that when you see something like here and then it's replaced by something else, that our minds go, these things are equal. If they're doing the same thing, but it's passed on to someone else, then these things are equal. And I wanted to use that phenomenon to make a statement of world unity by passing a single choreographic thread around the world to people everywhere, many places, that it just kind of creates a statement of world unity, and that's what I wanted to do. So the choreographer, my colleague at OSU, B.B. Miller, choreographed the dance. I farmed out 2-second assignments to 54 filmmakers around the world, saying, all right, you're going to film measure 8 counts 3, 4, 5, 6. Find some non-dancer on the street and teach them those 4 counts. And I think that anybody can learn 2 seconds of dance, even complicated dance. 3 seconds is probably pushing it, but 2 seconds I think people can manage. If you spend 10 minutes with somebody, you can get anyone to do that. It'll take a while. You asked if I was going to dance. There, it happened. It happened. So 54 filmmakers, 23 countries, which is all 7 continents. You'll even see Antarctica in there. Finding non-dancers and teaching them the 2 seconds, and then sending me the footage and edit it all together.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
incentive for all of the filmmakers to participate?
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Excellent.
You know, you just put it out there. Does anyone want to work on a crowdsourced project? It doesn't take that long to really do their part. And it took 9 months to kind of get everybody. I was hoping to get 100 filmmakers, and I couldn't. So instead, used the 54 that I had, and people doubled up and did 2 people. A lot of the people I knew, and that's not true, but a fifth of the people I knew. And then just writing to arts organizations and dance film festivals around the world and seeing, do you know anybody? And people, just thought it was like a interesting experience to try. And if you go on my website, mitchellrose.com, there's a Globetrot tab, and you can see the 20-page manual there that instructed everybody on how to do it. Teach them the choreography and know how to frame it up and things like that. Well, I think I'll show one more, and this is the film that I just completed a couple of weeks ago that I shot over the weekend. Again, made with my pals in Portland, their Body Box Dance Company. I'll just show it. It's alternate interpretations of signage. Where'd the cursor go? There it is. enough. So, but, any more questions from anybody?
We've got 5 minutes before we wrap up, so if anybody has any more questions for Mitchell?
I'm going to drain them of all the questions during the thing.
No,
A strangely personal one. How did you make the shift from California to Ohio?
I got a job. So there was a job at Ohio State, teaching dance filmmaking. There aren't that many dance filmmaking tenure track positions. Ohio State is one of the great dance departments in the country. They have a long-standing commitment to technology, so it was just kind of a great opportunity. And my wife is in pharmaceutical advertising, of which there's just pockets of it around the country. There's some in New Jersey, in New York. There's some in San Francisco, San Diego, and Columbus.
GSW?
At GSW. Well, she's at Navicor, which is part of the Inventive family. So she had actually been at GSW like 15 years ago and then moved to California, and that's where we met. We were in San Francisco, and she was at an agency there, and then it just like was this amazing Venn intersection of like to find, oh my God, there's a dance filmmaking job, and she went back to her old agency, so it just like worked out very nicely.
How many years have you been at OSU now?
This is my 6th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you part of Dance Tech, that OSU computer department? did with
ACAD,
that?
the Advanced Center for Computing. No.
Okay.
They are kind of our sister organization. They're on the other side of the building. We do stuff together all the time. I made a film with them in May and June. Sort of a combination motion capture and green screen film. I'm not part of it, but we do stuff together.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other final questions?
If you weren't a dancer, you were a dancer, correct? Or-
Yeah. Before I was a filmmaker.
And what I kept thinking of is, if you weren't and didn't understand
Yeah.
movement, would it be very difficult then to be a dance filmmaker? I mean, the fact that
It helps.
you know that, to me, seems so important.
It helps, and most people who are dance filmmakers have some, I would say 90% of them have had some experience in dance, so it's good to understand that field. But it can also be a kind of a detriment, because I think to become a dance filmmaker, you have to let go of your old dance thinking.
Yes.
That the dance is a forward projected thing. Here's a proscenium, and they begin to make this a surrogate for the proscenium.
Yeah.
And what I'm interested in really is in making things from the ground up through filmic constructions. So I could, like in Dear John, you could change any of that movement, but it's the filmic structure of it that's really telling the story and conveying the emotions. So for me, it's like I think of it as they're filmic constructions, really, that have dance as the medium. A lot of people kind of never let go of their dance thinking, and for them, dance film becomes a way of filming dance beautifully.
I see.
But the dance comes from the spiritual heart of the thing is the choreography, and in my work, I feel like the heart of the thing is the editing. That's where the dance comes from, is by editing stuff together.
And the creating of it, don't you think? Because it's not just filming a dance, it's
Right.
creating a story that involves,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah. For me, like, the film is the dance,
yeah.
as opposed to filming dance.
Well, I think the Washington Post and the New York Times had it right. You are a rare and wonderful talent.
Thank
We're
you.
very lucky to have you here in Ohio. So thank you, Mitchell, for joining us today.
Thanks.
It's a wrap.